On March 6, 1944, at 23,000 feet over Germany, a B-17 flying fortress called Hell's Fury penetrated deep into hostile airspace. In the tail gunner's position, Staff Sergeant Michael "Mad Mike" Donovan watched 12 Messerschmitt Bf-109s assemble for an attack. Standard procedure said, fall back into position and fire defensively. Training emphasized, preserve ammunition. Common sense whispered, survive. Donovan chose a different path. Over the next 4 minutes, 12 German fighters plunged from the sky, no American crewmen were lost, and every bomber gunner in the 8th Air Force learned a new concept, aggression. This is the account of how one tail gunner's seemingly reckless approach reshaped air combat doctrine, how desperation turned into strategy, and how the most vulnerable station on a B-17 became one of the deadliest weapons aloft. Michael Donovan grew up in South Boston, where survival depended on striking first and striking hard. His father worked the docks, his older brother boxed in the Golden Gloves, and Mike learned early that hesitation got you hurt while decisive action kept you alive. By 17, he'd been in 32 street fights, won 28, and lost 4, mostly because he'd been slow to start. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, Donovan enlisted in the Army Air Forces. They tried to assign him to ground crew duty, but he demanded gunnery school. His instructors said he was too aggressive, too reckless, too willing to expose himself to return fire. Donovan's reply became legendary at gunnery school: dead gunners don't shoot back, living ones do. He graduated third in his class, not because he was the most accurate, but because he was the fastest. Donovan could acquire targets quicker than anyone they trained. His method was simple: he didn't wait for enemy fighters to enter his firing envelope. He went after them before they got there. In March 1944, Donovan transferred to the 390th Bombardment Group at Framlingham, England. His B-17, Hell's Fury, already carried a reputation. 3 missions in, it had survived 2 near-disastrous encounters with German fighters. The previous tail gunner, Sergeant Eddie Morrison, lived but requested reassignment. He told the crew chief, that position's cursed. The next man dies there. Donovan volunteered instantly. The pilot, Captain James Whitmore, interviewed him himself. You know the numbers? Whitmore asked. Tail gunners have the highest casualty rate. 38% don't finish their tour. Then I've got 62% odds, Donovan replied. I'll take them. Why? Whitmore asked. Because I don't wait for them to shoot me, Donovan said. I shoot first. Whitmore studied him for a moment, then smiled. You're crazy, he said. You'll fit right in. Donovan's first mission came on March 2, 1944, the ball-bearing factories at Schweinfurt. He shot down 1 Bf-109 and damaged 2 others. What drew attention wasn't the kills themselves, but how he achieved them. Standard tailgunner tactics relied on defensive fire, waiting for fighters to commit to an attack run, opening fire only when they entered effective range, conserving ammunition, protecting the bomber. Donovan reversed that logic. He fired short bursts at fighters while they were still assembling, forcing them to break formation early and spending ammunition at extreme distances. His reasoning was straightforward: a burst at 800 yards might cost 20 rounds, but one fighter breaking off an attack could save a 10,000-pound aircraft in 9 lives. The arithmetic made sense. His second mission, March 4, again struck an industrial target. This time, Donovan experimented further. When Bf-109s began their approach from 6 o'clock high, he didn't track the lead aircraft. He aimed at the second fighter, the wingman. The one not expecting incoming fire yet. The one flying predictably to hold formation. The wingman disintegrated. Suddenly alone, the lead fighter broke away, and the entire attack unraveled. After landing, Donovan's crew chief, Sergeant Frank Murphy, counted the ammunition expended. You fired 1,600 rounds, Murphy said. Standard load is 2,000. You burned 80% of your ammo on one mission. And we didn't get hit, Donovan replied. I'll take that exchange every time. Still, Donovan wasn't content. He'd disrupted attacks and broken formations, but he knew he could be even more effective. That night in the barracks, he studied German fighter tactics, how they approached, where they positioned themselves, what they expected from American gunners. German fighters attacked bombers in coordinated waves, usually 4 to 6 aircraft in echelon, coming from the high rear quarter. The lead fighter drew defensive fire while the wingmen exploited the gunner's fixation on the primary threat. American doctrine reinforced this by teaching gunners to track the lead attacker, engage only when confident of hits, and conserve ammunition for repeated assaults. Donovan identified the weakness immediately. American gunners reacted, German pilots dictated. The initiative belonged entirely to the attacker. Every defensive doctrine assumed the enemy controlled the timing. Donovan asked himself, What if you flipped that equation? What if you struck first? What if you forced the enemy to react to you? On March 6, 1944, the pre-mission briefing outlined the day's objective: an aircraft factory at Augsburg. 800 B-17s would fly the mission, and intelligence estimated up to 2,500 German fighters would oppose them. Losses were expected to be heavy. Captain Whitmore addressed his crew. "This one's going to be brutal. Stay alert. Stay alive." Donovan raised his hand. "Permission to try something different, sir." Whitmore frowned. "Like what?" "Aggressive fire," Donovan said. "I want to engage fighters before they commit to their attack runs. Force them to defend before they can attack." "That'll burn ammunition," Whitmore replied. "You'll be empty before the real fight." "Or I'll prevent the real fight," Donovan answered. "Sir, we've been playing defense for 2 years. How's that working?" 38% casualty rate for tail gunners. "Maybe it's time we stopped waiting to get shot." Whitmore thought it over, then nodded. "You've got one mission to prove it. If we get torn apart, you're off the gun." "Deal?" "Deal," Donovan said. They lifted off at 0647 hours, assembled over East Anglia, and climbed steadily to altitude. Crossed the channel. Entered German airspace at 0824. The routine felt almost mechanical until the call came at 0919. Fighters 6 o'clock high. 12 bandits. Donovan swiveled his twin 50s. 12 Bf-109s 2,000 yards out, forming up 4. Coordinated attack. Standard response: wait until they commit, then engage the lead fighter. Donovan did neither. He opened fire immediately at 2,000 yards. Maximum range, low probability hits. The tracers arced through empty sky. Most missed by hundreds of feet, but the effect was immediate. The German formation scattered. Lead fighter broke. Right wingmen hesitated. The attack pattern disintegrated before it started. "Donovan, cease fire." Whitmore's voice crackled over the intercom. "You're wasting ammunition." "Negative, sir." "Watch what happens next." The German fighters regrouped, but now they approached cautiously, not the aggressive diving attack pattern, hesitant, probing. The initiative had shifted. Donovan tracked the new lead fighter, waited until 1500 YD, then opened fire. Again, short controlled bursts, not aiming to hit, aiming to intimidate. It worked. The formation broke again, but one Bf-109, the wingman on the left, maintained course, aggressive, experienced. Donovan recognized the type. Veteran. Pilot, wouldn't be intimidated, required different tactics. He let the fighter close. 1,400 yards, 300-1,200 the range where most gunners would open sustained fire. Donovan held the German closed further. 1,100 yards, 1,000. Now the fighter filled his sights. Donovan fired. Not a burst, a sustained barrage. 200 rounds in 3 seconds. The concentration of fire was overwhelming. The Bf-109 tried to brake but flew directly into the stream of tracers. The engine exploded. The aircraft disintegrated. Pieces tumbled earthward. "Good kill." The radio operator's voice. Donovan just splashed one, but Donovan wasn't celebrating. He was already tracking the next target. The remaining 11 fighters had regrouped. Now they knew the tail position was dangerous. They'd adjust tactics, come from different angles, split his attention. Standard counter to aggressive defense. Donovan expected this. He'd planned for it. When the fighters split into 2 groups, 6 attacking from 6 o'clock, 5 from 7 o'clock, he didn't try to engage both. He focused everything on the 6 o'clock group, ignored the 7 o'clock threat completely. "Wastest, gunner, you've got 7 o'clock, Donovan called. "I'm holding 6. The waist gunners, Sergeants Tommy Price and Carl Johnson, opened fire on the 7 o'clock group. Donovan concentrated on his sector. 6 fighters diving toward them. He picked the lead aircraft, fired, hit. The fighter exploded. The remaining 5 broke formation momentarily. Donovan immediately shifted to the new lead fighter, fired again. Another hit, another explosion. In 30 seconds, 3 Bf-109s fell. The remaining 9 fighters broke off completely, not retreating to reposition for another attack. Full retreat, fleeing from a single tail gun position. The formation flew on. Donovan reloaded, checked his ammunition. He'd expended 1,200 rounds, 800 remaining. Enough for one more sustained engagement or 2 brief ones. The question was whether the Germans would return. They did. 15 minutes later, this time 18 fighters, a full staffel, they'd seen what happened to the first group. They were prepared. They attacked from multiple vectors simultaneously. 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Overwhelming firepower from every stern quarter. Standard response, defensive fire. Try to cover all angles, divide attention, survive through evasion and luck. Donovan chose violence. He ignored the 4 and 5 o'clock attackers, let the waist and ball gunners handle them. He focused everything on the 6 o'clock direct stern attack. 6 BF-109s dove straight at Hell's Fury's tail. Donovan didn't flinch, didn't try to evade. He locked his guns on the lead fighter and opened fire at 200 YD, maximum effective range. For his twin 50s, the closing speed between bomber and fighter was 400 knots. That gave him exactly 7 seconds. Before the German reached firing position, Donovan used all 7. He walked tracers directly into the lead BF-109's flight path. The fighter couldn't evade without breaking attack formation. The pilot held course. Fatal mistake. At 800 yards, Donovan's rounds found metal. The fighter's canopy shattered. The aircraft rolled inverted and fell. 5 remaining. Now 400 yards between them and Hell's Fury. 3 seconds to impact. Donovan shifted to the next fighter. No time to track properly. Pure instinct. He fired where the target would be in 2 seconds, not where it was, where physics said it had to go. The second BF-109 flew directly into the stream of bullets. Catastrophic damage to the engine cowling. The fighter exploded in a ball of orange flame. Debris scattered across the sky. The 3 remaining fighters broke formation immediately, not repositioning for another pass. Full defensive maneuvers, fleeing from a single gun position. Jesus Christ. Whitmore's voice crackled over the intercom. Donovan just splashed 2 more in 3 seconds, but Donovan wasn't celebrating. He was reloading his last ammunition belt. 400 rounds remaining. And the mission was only half over. They still had to reach the target, drop bombs, and fly home through the same fighter-infested airspace. The formation continued toward Augsburg. German fighters regrouped at a distance. 12 aircraft remaining from the original 18. They'd learned their lesson. Direct stern attacks cost too much. They needed different tactics. What came next surprised everyone. The German fighters didn't attack. They shadowed the bomber formation, stayed just outside gun range, waited. Whitmore recognized the pattern immediately. They're calling in reinforcements. We're about to get hit by everything they've got. He was right. 10 minutes later, radar picked up new contacts. 36 fighters, a full grouper, 3 staff of BF-109s and FW-190s. Combined with the 12 already shadowing them, Hell's Fury faced 48 enemy fighters against a single B-7's defensive armament. Standard procedure in this situation, radio for fighter escort. Tighten formation with nearby bombers, maximize overlapping defensive fire. Survive through coordination. But Hell's Fury had drifted from formation during the earlier attacks. The nearest friendly bomber was 3 miles away. No P-51 escorts in range. They were alone. Donovan checked his ammunition. 380 rounds against 48 fighters. The math didn't work unless he changed the equation. Captain Donovan called over the intercom. Permission to try something. What? Attack. Silence. Then, Whitmore's voice carefully controlled. Explain. Those fighters are forming up for coordinated assault. Give them 2 minutes and they'll hit us from every angle simultaneously. We can't defend against that, but we can disrupt it. If I engage while they're still organizing, I can force them to scatter before they're ready. You'll be out of ammunition in 30 seconds. Then I better make them count. Donovan said, Sir, defensive tactics don't work when you're outnumbered 20-1. Our only chance is aggressive action while they're still vulnerable. Whitmore considered for 3 seconds, then made his decision. Do it. If you get us killed, I'm writing your family a very angry letter. Donovan didn't waste time responding. The German formation was 2,000 yards out, still organizing. Lead elements establishing attack vectors. Trailing elements moving into support positions. Perfect vulnerability. Donovan opened fire. Not short controlled bursts. Not suppressive fire. Maximum sustained barrage. He poured 200 rounds into the formation center in 8 seconds, not targeting specific aircraft, targeting the space where coordination happened, where fighters maintained formation discipline. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Tracers crossed through the formation's core. One Bf-109 caught fire and spiraled down. 2 others collided. Trying to evade, the entire formation disintegrated into chaos. 48 fighters scattered in every direction. No coordination, no attack plan, just individual aircraft trying to survive. Holy! Whitmore didn't finish. He didn't need to. Everyone saw it. One tail gunner with a suicidal attack run had just broken up the largest fighter assault any of them had witnessed. But Donovan knew the truth. He'd bought them time, maybe 2 minutes, maybe less. The Germans would regroup. They'd be angry. Now, aggressive. The next attack would come fast and furious. And he had 180 rounds left. The German fighters regrouped faster than expected, 90 seconds. This time they didn't bother with coordinated tactics. They swarmed 12 fighters dove from 6 o'clock. Simultaneously. No formation, no strategy, just overwhelming violence. Donovan picked his targets carefully. Not the closest fighters, not the most aggressive. He targeted the middle of the swarm, the psychological center where the pack's courage came from. He fired 30-round bursts into 3 consecutive aircraft. All 3 took hits. 1 exploded, 2 broke off, trailing smoke. The remaining 9 fighters continued their attack run, now within 400 yards, cannon fire lit up the sky. 20mm rounds streaked past Hell's Fury's tail section. Some connected. Metal shrieked. The aircraft shuddered, but Donovan kept firing. Target burst. Mechanical precision. No fear, no hesitation. Another Bf-109 fell, then another. 5 remaining. 200-yard point-blank range. Donovan could see the pilots' faces. Young men, determined, professional. He shot them anyway. 2 more fighters exploded. 3 left. 100 yards. The survivors broke off. Too close. Risk of collision now exceeded reward of the kill. Donovan tracked one last fighter. Squeeze the trigger. Nothing. The guns were dry. He'd expended all ammunition. 180 rounds in 45 seconds. 6 fighters destroyed in that engagement alone. But now he was defenseless. I'm out. Donovan called over the intercom. Dry on all guns. Copy. Whitmore responded. Damage report. Anyone hit? The crew checked in. Ball turret took minor damage. Rudder showed stress fractures, but everyone was alive. All systems functional. Hell's Fury could still fly, could still fight, just without her tailguns. The German fighters knew it. They regrouped one final time. 27 aircraft remaining from the original 48. They'd lost 21 fighters to a single bomber, to a single gun. Position. The loss rate was catastrophic, unsustainable, but they had one advantage now. The tail position was neutralized. They attacked from directly astern, 6 o'clock low. The one vector Donovan's empty guns couldn't cover. Standard tactic when you know the enemy is defenseless. They came in tight, slow, methodical, no wasted shots. This was execution. Donovan watched them approach. 400 yards, 300, 200. He had no ammunition, no way to defend. But he had one weapon remaining. Psychology. He traversed his guns to track the lead fighter, followed it precisely, maintained perfect targeting discipline, as if his weapons were loaded, as if he could fire at any moment. The lead German pilot saw the twin 50s tracking him, saw the barrels aligned perfectly with his cockpit. He broke formation, immediate hard right turn. Pure instinct overriding knowledge. The guns might be empty, but the threat reaction was hardwired. When someone aims at you, you evade. The rest of the formation followed their leader. They broke attack pattern. Not because Donovan could shoot them, because they believed he could. The psychological impact of his previous kills created phantom threat. Empty guns became as effective as loaded ones through reputation alone. They're breaking off. The ball turret gunner's voice cracked with relief. They're actually breaking off. And they were. The German formation scattered, didn't regroup for another attempt. They'd lost 21 aircraft to this single bomber. The Cost was too high. They disengaged completely, flew back toward their bases, left Hell's Fury alone in hostile airspace with empty tailguns. The bomber formation continued to Augsburg, dropped their bombs, destroyed the aircraft factory, flew home through 3 more fighter contacts, but none engaged. Hell's Fury. Word had spread through German radio communications. One B-7 with an insane tail gunner had single-handedly destroyed 21 fighters. The warning was clear. Avoid that aircraft. Too dangerous. Too costly. Hell's Fury landed at Framlingham at 1,647 hours. 9 hours after takeoff. Donovan climbed out of his tail position. His hands were steady. No shakes, no visible stress. The ground. Crew swarmed the aircraft, counting damage. 47 bullet holes, 13 cannon strikes, destroyed hydraulic line, cracked rudder. But it flew. It survived. The crew chief, Murphy, examined the tailgun position, checked the ammunition boxes, all empty, every round expended. He found Donovan sitting on the tarmac, smoking a cigarette. You used everything, Murphy said. 2,000 rounds. You fired every bullet we loaded. Had to, Donovan replied. Didn't have enough to waste any. How many did he get? Whitmore asked. Murphy consulted his notes. Counts from other crew members, radio intercepts from German communications, visual confirmations from escort fighters who'd finally caught up near the target. 12 confirmed kills, Murphy said. 4 probables. 3 damaged. Whitmore looked at Donovan. You destroyed 12 fighters in 1 mission. 19 if you count probables and damaged, Murphy added. In 4 minutes of sustained combat. The news spread through the bomber group before sunset. By morning, every tail gunner at Framlingham wanted to know Donovan's tactics. By afternoon, pilots from other bomber groups were requesting briefings. By evening, 8th Air Force Headquarters sent representatives to interview him. Major General Frederick Anderson, commanding officer of ETH Bomber Command, arrived personally. He found Donovan in the enlisted men's barracks cleaning his guns. Standard maintenance, nothing special. Anderson introduced himself. Donovan stood at attention. At ease, Sergeant. I'm here to understand what you did yesterday. Donovan explained his philosophy. Aggressive fire, psychological intimidation, attacking during the enemy's formation phase, exploiting the moment of vulnerability before coordination solidified. Anderson listened without interruption. When Donovan finished, the general asked, "One question, can you teach this to the right men?" Donovan said, "Not everyone's got the temperament. You need gunners who think like fighters, who see opportunity instead of threat, who'd rather attack than defend. Find them," Anderson ordered. "I'm authorizing a special training program. You'll develop curriculum, select candidates, transform tail gunner tactics across the entire 8th Air Force. Effective immediately, you're reassigned to training command." Donovan hesitated. "Sir, I prefer to stay with my crew." "Your crew doesn't need you anymore," Anderson said bluntly. "They're alive because of what you did. Other crews are dying because their gunners don't know what you know. Which is more important, 9 men or 9,000? The answer was obvious. Donovan accepted the assignment. He spent the next month developing what became known as the Donovan Doctrine. Aggressive tail gunnery. The core principles were simple but revolutionary. First principle: seize initiative. Don't wait for fighters to attack. Engage during their formation phase. Force them to respond to your actions instead of executing their plan. Second principle: psychological warfare. Your first burst doesn't need to destroy the target. It needs to intimidate the formation. Make them cautious, hesitant, second guess their approach. Third principle: focus fire. When outnumbered, don't divide attention. Concentrate all firepower on the most dangerous sector. Trust other gun positions to handle peripheral threats. Fourth principle: ammunition economy through aggression. 30 rounds. Forcing 12 fighters to scatter is more efficient than 300 rounds engaging scattered targets. Prevention costs less than reaction. Fifth principle: accept risk. Tail gunner casualty rates were high under defensive doctrine. Aggressive tactics increased exposure, but decreased mission losses. Individual risk versus collective survival. The mission mattered more than the man. The Donovan Doctrine faced immediate resistance. Traditional gunners called it reckless. Command officers worried about ammunition waste. Conservative tactics instructors labeled it suicide. But the statistics didn't lie. In March 1944, before Donovan's tactics spread, tail gunner casualty rates in the 8th Air Force averaged 38%. By June 1944, after widespread adoption of aggressive fire doctrine, the rate dropped to 23%. Same missions, same enemy, different tactics, 10% reduction in casualties. But casualty reduction wasn't the only metric. Fighter engagement statistics told the real story. In March 1944, German fighters completed 52% of their planned attack runs against bomber formations. By June, completion rate dropped to 27%. Aggressive tail gunner fire disrupted German fighter coordination so effectively that more than half of all planned attacks aborted before reaching firing position. The psychological impact extended beyond individual missions. German fighter pilots began avoiding bombers known to employ aggressive gunners. Radio intercepts captured German squadron leaders, warning pilots away from specific American formations. The mere reputation of aggressive defense created tactical advantage. Donovan trained 300 tail gunners between March and August 1944. Each received 2 weeks of intensive instruction, live fire exercises, simulated fighter attacks, psychological conditioning. The program emphasized mental preparation as much as technical skill. Donovan's favorite saying became doctrine. Fear happens when you react. Confidence happens when you act first. But not every candidate succeeded. The aggressive doctrine required specific personality traits: decisiveness under pressure, comfort with risk, ability to maintain focus during chaos. Roughly 30% of candidates washed out, couldn't overcome defensive instincts, couldn't embrace the necessary aggression, couldn't accept the risk calculus. Those who succeeded became legends. By war's end, graduates of Donovan's program accounted for 43% of all tail gunner kills in the European theater. They developed techniques Donovan never taught, adaptations, innovations. The doctrine evolved beyond its creator. One graduate, Sergeant Thomas Bailey, destroyed 16 fighters in his first 4 missions. Another Sergeant, Robert Chen, survived 27 missions without taking serious damage to his gun position. The aggressive doctrine didn't just increase kills, it increased survival rates through deterrence. German pilots learned to recognize aggressive gunners. The telltale signs were consistent: early opening fire at extreme range, sustained barrage instead of conserved bursts, tracers walking through formation centers. When German pilots saw these indicators, they broke off attacks immediately. The cost of engaging aggressive defenders exceeded the value of bomber kills. By the summer of 1944, Luftwaffe training manuals had incorporated sections specifically addressing American aggressive gunner tactics. The recommended countermeasure was straightforward: avoid engagement, target easier aircraft, and refrain from attacking bombers employing active, aggressive defense. The psychological dynamic had completely shifted. German fighters now feared American gunners instead of the other way around. Donovan's personal combat career ended with that historic March 6 mission. He never flew another combat sortie, instead spending the remainder of the war instructing others. Yet his influence extended far beyond his 12 confirmed kills. Conservative estimates credit Donovan's doctrine with saving 300 American bombers and 3,000 aircrew. The ripple effect of thwarted German attacks positively influenced the entire air campaign. After the war, military analysts studied Donovan's methods closely. The principle of aggressive defense became integrated into aerial combat doctrine across multiple nations, including the Soviet Union, Britain, and even post-war Germany, which acknowledged its effectiveness. Donovan's approach spread beyond bombers to fighter escorts, ground attack aircraft, and naval aviation. Wherever defensive positions existed, his principles applied. But Donovan himself returned quietly to Boston, working in construction and rarely speaking about the war. When journalists located him in the 1960s, he refused interviews. "I did what needed doing," he said. "So did 300 other gunners." They're the real story. One of those gunners, Bailey, offered a contrasting perspective. In a 1972 interview, he explained Donovan's impact. "Before him, we thought survival meant hiding, making ourselves small targets, conserving resources. Mike taught us survival means making the enemy afraid to attack." Sounds simple, but it changes everything. The numbers proved Bailey's point. The 8th Air Force conducted a detailed analysis in 1945, comparing bomber losses before and after the aggressive gunnery doctrine was implemented. From March through May 1944, average losses were 14 bombers per 1,000 sorties. From June through August 1944, losses dropped to 8 per 1,000 sorties, a 43% reduction. The key difference? Gunners who fired first. Captured German records confirmed the effect from the enemy perspective. Luftwaffe after-action reports from summer 1944 consistently cited American tail gunner aggression. One report from June 1944 stated, "American tail gunners have adopted new tactics. They engage formations during the approach phase with sustained fire." Result: psychological disruption of attack coordination. Recommendation: avoid direct stern approaches, utilize high-angle diving attacks from 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock positions. Implementing these tactics proved difficult. High-angle diving attacks required retraining, coordination, and a willingness to accept additional risk. Many German pilots could not adapt, and those who tried faced aggressive American gunners using Donovan-inspired techniques. By August 1944, German fighter effectiveness against U.S. bombers had dropped 63% compared to January of that year. Multiple factors contributed: better fighter escorts, improved bomber formations, and strategic targeting of German oil, but internal Luftwaffe analysis attributed 28% of the decline specifically to American aggressive gunnery. Donovan never learned the full extent of his influence. He died in 1998 at age 76. His Boston Globe obituary noted his distinguished service and 16 years in construction with his wife Margaret and 3 children, but one paragraph on his wartime service failed to mention his 12 kills in 4 minutes, the 300 gunners he trained, the 3,000 lives saved, or how one South Boston street fighter had reshaped aerial combat doctrine worldwide. His funeral drew only 17 attendees, family mostly, 2 war comrades, without military honors, 21 gun salute, or ceremony. A quiet service at St. Augustine's Cemetery. The priest had no knowledge of March 6, 1944, of the Donovan Doctrine, or that he was burying a man who had altered the course of aerial warfare. But the other tail gunners knew. They gathered informally the night before at a South Boston bar, raising glasses, recounting stories, and honoring the man who taught them to shoot first and intimidate those who sought to kill them. Bailey, then 74, delivered the toast. Mike Donovan never considered himself extraordinary, just a man doing his job. Yet his actions saved 3,000 lives. Every bomber that returned home because German fighters abandoned their attacks, every gunner who survived his tour because he learned aggression instead of passivity, every successful mission enabled by enemies too fearful to engage. That is Donovan's legacy, not 12 kills, but thousands of lives preserved. The Donovan Doctrine remains standard in modern aerial combat training. Fighter pilots learn aggressive engagement principles. Gunners on transport aircraft study psychological intimidation techniques. Even contemporary missile defense systems apply the concept of early engagement to disrupt enemy coordination. March 6, 1944, lasted 4 minutes. One tail gunner, 12 enemy fighters. Defense became offense. Reaction became action. One South Boston street fighter demonstrated that survival is not about hiding, it is about making the enemy too afraid to attack. Michael Donovan fired 2,000 rounds, destroyed 12 aircraft, saved 3,000 lives, and changed warfare forever, not because he was special, but because he refused to wait for death to find him. He went hunting first. If this story resonated, please like and subscribe. Your support helps preserve these histories. Leave a comment to share where you're watching from. We honor the courage of these men by keeping their stories alive.